So while holding the club in the way that I'm holding it, there is a lot of bicep and forearm activation to keep the club the way it needs to be. And I think in a lot of cases that concept comes into play. Hello all, it's Sunday, April 6th, around 2:20. I hit 1,000 subscribers last night, and so that was really cool. Thank you all for subscribing. It's kind of cool knowing that people care about the things that I do and find things that I do interesting. So, yeah. Anyway, today, at least while I was at home, I was brainstorming about ideas of exercises that involved, I guess, multiple components, specifically like carries and anchors, just all in one complex, using the kettlebells. I'm going to try and lean towards the heavier side of kettlebells today. I want to explain something about it, but I'll first do the exercise, then I'll kind of explain some of my rationale behind picking or how I brainstormed this particular complex. So, starting off with a heavy kettlebell, or heavy is relative depending on a person's strength level. So I have a 80-pound kettlebell to my right and a 50-pound to my left. I'm going to do a Gladiator deadlift, so that's where you reach cross body and then pick up the other kettlebell. Then farmer walk it forward and then back. Then I'm going to do an anchored clean and press. Then a suitcase deadlift to press. Then drop the heavy kettlebell, do a clean and press. Then clean to squat thruster. And so all of that's on one side, then repeat it on the other side. And then for the next thing, using my 15-pound mace to do a two-handed 360 to single-handed 360 to side switch and repeat. I'm going to do this about 8 times on each side. All right. So, yeah, the rationale behind picking some of these movements. So, to me, strength and development, I think people. So, when they talk about strength, it's usually like rep counts or what's your 1 rep max and things like that. And when they think about muscle growth, they think about it exclusively in terms of hypertrophy work, where you do curls and then there are micro tears and then they repair themselves and all of that. And all of that is true probably, but I think uh, a thing that's like overlooked is like we need to detach and view this whole workout thing from a distance. And when you do that, you kind of realize that your body is essentially just trying to adapt to the challenge that you're presenting it. And uh, one of the challenges, I guess, is how long can you handle load. So from like just picking the weights up to moving back and forth to then pressing it and all the different variations of presses, there are so many different muscle groups at work. Like, but if you looked at it exclusively in terms of, oh, he did 3 reps of presses, or he did uh, I don't know, 2 reps of deadlift or whatever. If if you like try to look at it scientifically, people say that, oh, optimal muscle growth happens at like 8 to 10 reps, and 3 reps is strength and all of that. But that doesn't necessarily make sense in this context. In this context, I've just presented myself with a task, which is the complex, which requires a lot of muscle groups to work at once, with a pretty challenging load at play, and my body will view that challenge and then try to adapt accordingly. I think sometimes people get too, I guess, narrow-minded or tunnel visioned into like, oh, I did 5 sets of 10 of squats and that's optimal for muscle growth. Instead, thinking along the lines of, I need to present my body with a challenge that requires my legs to get stronger. And in the process of getting stronger, one of the things it will have to do is get bigger, and so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. Like when I talk in my videos, a lot of it is just off the cuff. I don't really plan what I'm going to say. And so maybe if I took the time to, and it's not like I'm pulling this out of my behind. There are things that show that, the longer your body, so in bodybuilding you come across this term, time under tension. And I think that's only viewed in the context of like, oh, how long you did slow controlled reps and stuff. But instead, like, I think it also can be included in how long can you carry a weight from distance, how long is your set in general, if that makes sense. In any case, enough talking, I need to do my next set. So I've decided to go heavier on the heavy kettlebell, but stay on the same weight on the lighter kettlebell. So let's do this. And the reason I usually have this, like, so I do superset just to keep the heart rate up. I think endurance is a concept that's often overlooked by people who lift weights. I think the ability to do something with weights for a long time is also important, not just how heavy you go and stuff like that. I think it's important to be able to do something that involves resistance for a long duration. So by training using supersets, I'm able to keep my heart rate up, which has a cardiovascular effect, but also make my muscles keep working after the quote-unquote main part of the set. To squeeze out some more calorie burn. Also, Mace, clubs, and things like that, the movements that are involved in this are more flowy in nature and not so controlled. And you know, the body has the capacity to both be super rigid when it comes to like lifting something heavy off the floor or something like that, but at the same time it also has the capacity to kind of flow, and then like almost like a punch where you need to be like loose then tight right as you're hitting somebody. And the steel mace and club stuff is more in that realm of things, and so it's good to have a combination of both to preserve both capacities. That was going to be my last set, but a part of me wants to try using the 80-pound kettlebell as the lighter kettlebell for this complex. So let me just try and do that as well. I think I'll move a little bit over here. Alright. Oh yeah. No. Not bad. At least got part of it. Let me finish off the rest though. So I have the my right side's my weaker side, so it's definitely gonna be much harder. But let's give it a go anyway. I did surprisingly good on my right side. Let's just do the mace thing to finish off. So, another thing that just came to mind was, so when you do strength training, like how do you, for example, in a squat, if you want to experience a load heavier than what you're typically used to, the risk is really high. Because let's say, you have some sort of mental barrier that's stopping you from getting a 315 squat or something, and then you go for it and then you end up failing. There's a much greater chance than than a lot of other exercises to get injured in that sort of setup. However, if you wanted to introduce yourself to really heavy weights in the form of a farmer carry or on the sled, the risk is minimal if you can't move the weight. Very little risk of injury. And so I think farmer carry and sled are really great tools to present your body with really heavy loads with very low injury risk, and then certain adaptations take place in the body that make you feel really more comfortable, at least with handling heavy weights, that I think translates to all other lifts. That's just a personal opinion, but it also seems like Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell, when he trained his powerlifters, one of the things that they used to supplement their powerlifting training was the sled, and I suspect that has something to do with it. In any case, this is what I'm starting off with. On to the next thing. So for the next complex, doing staggered deadlifts to start. So I have my 106-pound kettlebell in front and my 80-pound kettle to my right. I'm going to keep my left leg, I guess, in like a kickstand position behind the heavy kettlebell, and then do 6 deadlifts in this position. The staggered position allows you to focus on one leg at a time. More often than not, when you do a deadlift at the gym, it's always bilateral in nature. And if there is, so more often than not, you're doing a mixed grip. So there's definitely some sort of imbalance forming in the muscle chain over there. And then repeating on the other side. And then with the 106-pound kettlebell, I'm going to do 10 kettlebell swings. So when doing swings, I think one of the cues that helps me is keeping my eye on the kettlebell. Like, have your head follow the kettlebell. In my opinion, that puts your body in like the right position the whole way during the swing. And then for the flowy part of the complex or the set, with my 15-pound club, doing a figure 8 to shield cast to inside mill, rebound into an outside mill, and repeat. It's nice to perform rhythmic movements like this. Your body, or at least my body does, but I'm pretty sure most people's body operates on some form of rhythm. Like usually, like let's say when you run, when you develop some sort of rhythm, the running feels automatic. And I think in a lot of cases that concept comes into play. Like re-entering that quote-unquote flow state where things feel automatic. That seems to come from some form of feeling rhythm. And I think the more you train your body in some of these rhythmic ways, that flow state becomes more accessible. I don't know. Sometimes it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I don't know. It at least seems true for me. See, during that whole time, I didn't really feel like I was doing anything super difficult. It felt like, there was weight at play, my muscles are working, but it just felt automatic. And that's kind of the feeling that I'm talking about. It's, people have the runner's high and all of that. Like, while endorphins and stuff are all part of it, I think that rhythm is also a part of it, where your body just flows. Like, the movement is, very symmetrical from side to side, and it doesn't have to do too much thinking after a while. It can just do the movement. And there's something about doing something physical that's rhythmic that also creates joy, in my opinion. And the more your workout can feel joyful, the more likelihood that you're going to stay consistent with it, because there's something to look forward to. Sometimes I think workouts feel brutal because, there is a time and place for that. I definitely do think sometimes like, for example, I hate running, but I run anyway, because sometimes you do have to do things that you dislike, but it doesn't need to be the bulk of your training. In any case, for the next set, instead of having the heavy kettlebell in the center, I'm going to have it to the side. The way the legs have to adapt in this case is going to be a little different, and so it's good to train both ways. And also when a staggered position is involved and an offset load is involved, there are muscles at play to help maintain stability. And I think stability and balance. And I think that's also another thing that needs to be trained. Otherwise, you lose your capacity for it over time. And I think there is something to be said for, so, the swings. So, let me take off my glasses. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, if you're able to deadlift uneven weight in an awkward position, when you then end up deadlifting even weight in a balanced position, I would imagine, at least for me, I feel a lot stronger. So, some food for thought. So yeah, that was set 3 and 4. On to the next thing. So this is an idea that just occurred to me, and I've done something similar in the past where I did anchored steel Mace 360s, but then I thought, why not add a carry element to it as well? So, having my 106-pound kettlebell in my right hand, and I'm going to use my 15-pound club in my left hand. Going to walk back and forth. And then once I'm back, going to do 5 shield casts. And then a couple or 3, let's say, clean to shield casts, just to squeeze some more out of it. And now repeating on the other side. So, while holding the club in the way that I'm holding it, there is a lot of bicep and forearm activation to keep the club the way it needs to be kept. Oh, so yeah, I guess I know I am doing multiple sets of this, but I guess one thing that I would encourage people to think about is if you have different tools like the kettlebell and mace, or a kettlebell and a dumbbell, there are certain things that can come of combining tools that give rise to certain challenges that you don't otherwise get to experience. Then doing cross-body deadlifts, two-handed, for 5 on each side. So, and then for the flowy part of things, using my 25-pound kettlebell. So earlier I had said that if you have clubs and maces, you can train the flowy nature of the body. But it's not only restricted to those tools. You can use dumbbells and kettlebells as well. If you guys see my kettlebell juggling, that's one way of doing it. But without juggling, you can also come up with movements like the one I'm about to show. So, a figure 8, tap back to round the world, snatch to windmill, and repeat. So yeah, that's what I'm doing for now. Yeah, I'm only going to record one set of this, otherwise this video is going to get too long. But I'm going to do one more set, which will be my fourth set. Alright, on to some kettlebell juggling to end the workout. There's a lot of new subscribers, and I say this every time I have like a surge of subscribers. Kettlebell juggling is a sport that started in Russia. It's where people do tricks with a kettlebell and are graded based on how complex the tricks are, kind of like skateboarding or gymnastics or something like that. It's not particularly great on the fingers. There's some risk of injury and all that, as with any sport, but it's fun to do. It has that concept of flow to it, and there's joy. It's like similar to doing freestyle dribbling with a basketball and stuff. In any case, there's different kinds of juggling. There's classical juggling, there's freestyle juggling, and I do freestyle juggling. I don't do it competitively or anything. It's just something that's fun for me to do. And so yeah, let's just get right to it. Something kind of difficult but short to start. Like, if you guys have been following along my past couple of juggling sessions, one of the things that I was trying to get good at was a triple mug flip, especially with the left hand. I was able to get that, and so I was kind of good with ending it there. But now I kind of want to improve on that flow a little. So a double forward, double reverse, triple to triple. I could have done something better after that, and so that's where I'm going to look to improve. So yeah, let's see where I can take it. With the left-handed triple, or the mistake that I make, so like this happens at a subconscious level. Like, as I'm supposed to do the triple, I'm supposed to retract my left shoulder a little so that the kettlebell is closer to my body. But what happens is I'm flipping it like that to go away. But then when I try to catch it going away, which is not the ideal position for me to catch it, especially when it's flipping 3 times. That was good. I like that one. There's something about being in that zone. So, like, as I built on the flow, my body started learning where the kettlebell was going to be at any given moment. And then after that, the rest of the world kind of goes away and it's just you and the kettlebell. And when you reach that state, I don't know, that zone becomes more accessible, I think, in other areas as well. What is the time? My watch's out of battery. I hate it when my watch's out of battery because I like keeping track of calories burnt and stuff like that, but it is what it is. So there's this Tamil song that I want to listen to while I juggle, but when my microphone is connected, I can't listen to it. You know what? The audio is going to be kind of weird over here, and I'm not going to chat, but I want to listen to that song as I juggle and see what comes of it. That was good. So those last two flows were while I was listening to music, and there's something about being able to listen to music as I juggle that it's, even more fun than just regular juggling. But yeah, I think that'll be it for today's video. Some good flows at the end over there. And while the sun is still out, I might take my cat out for a while so that he can enjoy the sun a little. The next week is going to be kind of cold, and so he doesn't like it when it's cold. So I'm going to give him good weather when he can. In any case, yeah, that's all for today's video. Hope you all got some entertainment and some ideas out of it. See you all in the next one. Thanks again for subscribing and stuff. Oh yeah, before I go, if you guys like the steel mace and club and kettlebell stuff, there's a lot of videos from like last summer where like it was just a lot of this stuff, and you can see the way I'm learning it. So specifically, if you look at episode 100, that was the first time ever I used a steel mace, and so you can see how bad I was and then how I've improved since then. All of this stuff is self-taught. I watched videos online and just tried to copy what other people were doing and just try to look inwards and notice how my body was feeling. Then Same thing with juggling as well. If you look at episodes like from 74, 75, I believe one of those episodes is where I'm like, I hadn't got my competition kettlebell yet, and I was still trying to figure out how to juggle a kettlebell while still going to the gym. So, you don't have to go back and watch every video or anything, but there's definitely some stuff that I think is worth watching just because sometimes we see a lot of people online that have already acquired a skill and then are trying to show you how it's done. In my case, I'm not necessarily teaching how I juggle in the steel mason stuff, though it might be something I might entertain in the future. But you can see how I sucked at episode 100 and then gradually through slow iterations of trying to do more complex things have built up a skill. I don't consider myself to be super proficient at any of these tools yet, but I would at least say I'm like intermediate level or high intermediate. Some might consider that as being humble or something, but uh, once you've seen like how far these things can go, calling yourself an expert at something, I think is a little premature. But yeah, that was just some thought I had. So yeah, that's all for today. See you all in the next one.